boys and girls, students of Buddhist Sunday School and Dharma classes, and all primary school students particularly. In fact, anybody who is interested in listening to some children's stories. Now, the title for this presentation is Learning from Two Aesop's Fables. Now, I think you have heard many Aesop's fables, and fables, as you know, are very short moral stories. They usually have the animals as the main characters, and they convey very important moral lessons. So an Aesop's fable has a very good moral. We have actually heard many Aesop's fables and have done a number of presentations. Now, these Aesop's fables is a collection of short moral stories, particularly for children. And these short moral stories teach us very important moral lessons for us to grow in our wisdom and to live a life that is more happy and peaceful. Now, among the stories before that, you might want to know how did this come about. Now, this was due to an ancient Greek slave, a slave who lived in Greece many years ago, 600 over BC, 600 years before Jesus Christ. And this ancient Greek person, right, he was a slave and he started to tell a number of stories involving animals, and they convey very good morals. Altogether, there are more than 700, of these Aesop's famous short stories, 725 according to the records. And you have heard quite a number of them, like, for example, the lion and the mouse, the tortoise and the hare, the boy who cried wolf, the ant and the grasshopper, the fox and the crow, the goose that laid the golden eggs, and the boy who cried wolf, I mentioned, the fox and the grapes, and the dog and his reflection, and many others. Now, today we are going to have two other Aesop fables, which I think I have not posted before. Now, this presentation, right, has the text in English and then also in Malay or Bahasa Malaysia. But the narration, the audio narration with the explanation is in English. And at the end of each story, we are going to discuss some very important moral lessons that we can learn. Even though these stories are not true, because animals can talk, But then, the important thing is the moral lessons that we can learn from these stories. So that is the background for these Aesop's fables. Now, we are going to start the presentation. Now, before that, let me take up my video. And then now we are going to launch the PowerPoint. All right, we're going to start the slideshow from the beginning. As you can see, the cover or the title slide, learning from two Aesop's fables. Belajar daripada dua fable Aesop. Now, very, very colorful pictures I have chosen. And the two bigger pictures you can see involve some animals. And as you would probably guess, the main characters in these two Aesop's fables are, here you have the wolf, and then here you have a bird, is the stork. The stork, you can fly. And then also it has very tall legs and you can go to the pool of water and eat the smaller fishes. So that is the stork. Then you have the frog, as you know, and then here you have the hare. Now, this hare is a form of a species of rabbit, lah, right? So even in Malay, they use the term anak. It's similar to the rabbit, and it's different species, sort of the rabbit family, lah. So that is the title slide. So now let us start off, right, with the slide number 2 now. Now let me read the story so that you can learn how to read clearly, and then I will explain the more difficult words, and then also to comment or give you some explanation. The fox one day thought of a plan to amuse himself at the expense of the stork, at whose odd appearance he was always laughing. Now, what does this mean? Now, once upon a time, you can say there was this fox, a very cunning fox. Mostly, they depict the fox as cunning animals out to cheat or trick people. But there have been stories also where the fox is a good animal also. But anyways, this is a story. So he was thinking of having some fun, he wants to amuse. Amuse means to get some fun for himself, to be able to laugh at the expense. That means using other animals to make fun of. So that is the meaning, at the expense. Causing others difficulties and pain. So he was planning something, and he, looked down upon this other creature, the bird, the stork. He thought that the stork had a very funny appearance, with a long neck and then with very thin legs. He thought that he was very beautiful. So what did he say? So he came into the stork's place and said, "Mr. Stork, you must come and dine with me today," he said to the stork. I invited the stork for dinner today. And he was smiling to himself at the trick he was going to play. So he had already planned in his mind a trick to make fun of the stork so that he could amuse himself and he could maybe laugh at the expense. That means using other people as the victims or other animals in this case. So the stork was quite a good animal. So the stork gladly accepted. "Thank you, Mr. Fox, for your invitation." So the stork gladly accepted the invitation and arrived in good time. In good time, he was very punctual and with a very good appetite. Of course, he was looking forward to having a dinner, so he did not take his dinner in his place. So this stork was very good, very positive. And then also this good quality you have to learn, he arrived in good time, and that is punctuality. He did not make others wait for him. Probably the fox told him a certain time. Imagine those days, so they knew the time. And so he got ready, and then he walked to the fox home. So let us see what happens. Right? Some of you might have heard this story before, but it's good to remind ourselves. I've heard this many, many times ever since I was a young student in the primary school. So Malay, the fox is the musang, and this dog, we call it the bangau. The bangau. You see also flying bangau when you go on a river cruise or something like that. Now let us go on to slide number 3. Now I will read a few lines at a time and explain and comment. For dinner, the fox served soup. So the fox actually prepared some soup lah. You know, there were various types of soup, tomato soup lah, or beans, or whatever. This is a story, isn't it? In real life, how can a fox prepare the soup? The fox will go and eat the smaller animals like the chicken or the frogs or things like that, you see, right? But here, he prepared the soup. And then he served the food. He served the soup. But he had this dirty trick in his mind. You know where he put the soup? But it was set out in a very shallow dish. And all the stork could do was to wet the very tip of his bill. Now, let us look at this picture here. You can understand. Now, you know the stork has a very long neck. And then he has also what we call the beak or the bill, the big, you can see the picture there, right? Very long, sharp beaks. And if the soup is placed on a very shallow plate or a dish, then you find it is difficult for the stork to eat or take the whole soup. It has to be a deeper type of container lah, right? So he could only put his beak into the soup and his beak would get wet lah. But quite difficult for him and in this condition to get the soup into his stomach lah. So he could only wet the tip lah, as you say, wet the tip, make the tip of his bill filled with the soup only. So not a drop of soup could he get inside his stomach. But for the fox, it was easy, isn't it? The fox, as you know, just like a dog, you place the food on a plate, and then the dog would use his mouth, just like the animated picture shows you. This is, of course, also a shallower dish lah. And then he would just lap, that means to lick. In this case here, he would lick and eat the soup. He would lick and eat, or you can say drink also, the soup. So he purposely wanted to show the stork that he could eat so happily, and it was unfortunate that the stork could not eat. So he made the stork even more disappointed lah, isn't it? So he actually made a great show of enjoyment to show the stork that he could enjoy himself so much, eating and lapping and eating the soup. So the stork could not eat the soup, so he was hungry lah. But he was a very good animal. The hungry stork was much displeased at the trick lah. Of course, he was not happy lah. He was a bit disappointed. But he was a calm person. He remained calm. He did not get angry. Or what we say, he was even-tempered fellow lah, or animal, even-tempered. Not getting into anger at just any time, He could remain good-tempered. And inside him, he realized that, hey, it's no good if I become very angry. It hurts me. So he saw no good in flying into a rage. A rage will be very, very strong anger. Of course, other animals might be very angry, isn't it? But even scold the fox. I can't eat this sort of food, or I can't eat the food in this condition, or whatever lah. Like, it's just as if like the fox that say were to serve the stork unsuitable food lah. So other animals might get angry with the fox. You invite me, and now you don't even serve me with the food that I can eat in the proper way. So most will get angry, isn't it? Just like us lah. Most people you find will be very angry when something doesn't suit us, something cannot help us. something that makes us trouble or gives us pain, so we'll be angry with the other person, isn't it? And then you might even quarrel with the person and even fight. So that is not good, isn't it? But this dog was different. He remained calm because he knew that anger would be very bad for him, isn't it? He would suffer. If you are very angry, are you happy? Are you peaceful? Definitely not, isn't it? So this is a very good moral lesson. There's so many moral things, moral lessons that we can learn from Aesop's fables, actually. All right. So now this is animated stock to show the long beak. It can only poke into the dish of soup. So you could not have his dinner, so he went back hungry. So what would happen? So let us now look at the next slide, which is slide number 4. Not long afterwards, the stork invited the fox to dine with him in turn. So maybe a few days had passed already. Now the stork, actually the stork also had some plan to teach the fox a lesson, actually. So not long afterwards, maybe a few days, so the stork invited the fox. He said, Mr. Fox, I would like to invite you to my home to take dinner with me because you had invited me before. But of course, he was not angry and he was smiling. He did not say about, the condition when he was taking the dinner at the fox home. He did not mention all those things. So the fox said, oh, that's very good. Thank you. So the fox also arrived promptly. Also quite punctual. That was his good point. Because the time had been set. So the fox arrived promptly at the time that had been set. And the stork served a fish dinner. Of course, the fox can eat fish, and for the stork, one of the main types of food is the fish. So he would go, the storks would go to the maybe the pool or the lake or whatever, or the shallow part, and then he has very sharp eyes, so you can see the fish swimming beneath the surface of the water, and he can very quickly use his beak and catch the fish. Anyway, the fox was given the dinner of fish. But, and before that, I wanted to tell you that the fish dinner had a very appetizing smell. Of course, this is a story. So the stork also could cook very well the fish, and it had a very, very good smell. What we call appetizing smell. Wow, it will really whet up your appetite. You just look forward to eating. Have you come across some any appetizing dishes that your mother cooks for you? Maybe a very appetizing curry. Or maybe you like Kentucky or pizza, very appetizing, very nice to eat, like you can say. And sometimes, your mother may cook very, very good type of food with very good smell, isn't it? But you see here in this case, the stork served the fox, using a tall jar. You can see in the picture there, the tall jar, right? Now, you can see that this tall jar has a very long neck, isn't it? A very long neck. And the fish was broken into bits already. It could be also a fish soup with the small bits of the flesh and put inside the tall jars with very narrow neck. So for the stork, it was very easy, isn't it, to get at the food. So the stork could easily get at the food with his long bill or beak. As you can see in the picture, the animation, I just drew one part like this to show because of his long beak, he could put his beak right through the neck of the tall jar and eat the food. But the fox could not do that, isn't it? The fox, he had not a very sharp, uh, you can say mouth. And he could not put his mouth into that tall neck of the jar. He might get stuck. So what he could do only was to lick the outside of the jar. Outside of the jar, we could still smell the good smell, and sniff and smell at the delicious odor. The good smell, delicious odor. Odor means smell. Sniff means smell. So you learn some new words if you are not familiar. Of course, there are some students who are very good, right, who have been reading, so they understand, oh, smell at the very good smell. So he was getting angry already. He could not eat anything easily. So now let us see what the fox would do. Would he be patient? And would he think about what happened when he invited the stork and the stork could not eat anything? Did he think like this? So now let us go on to the slide number 5 now. The fox got very angry. He lost his temper. He lost his temper. So he scolded the stork. You invite me and now you serve this food on the place that on a vessel or container that I cannot eat. You're a terrible person. You are not considerate. You are like very, very bad type of person. But then, what did the stork say? The stork replied calmly, do not play tricks on your neighbors unless you can stand the same treatment yourself. The stork reminded him. Now, you trick me. In order to explain now, probably the stork explained to him and finally came up with this sentence that actually sums up the moral. Right? You invited me and you tricked me by serving me on a very shallow plate. And you know that it was difficult for me with my long beak to take the food. So, if you don't like this, then you should not lose your temper. Do not play tricks. You played the trick on me, so now I play the same trick back on you. So, what could the fox do? The fox couldn't reply. And the fox just went back hungry. And you can see the two pictures here, very good pictures that show very clearly. The first instance, of course, just show a setting in the house, or it could be anywhere. The idea is to understand. So the first, when the fox invited the stork, the food was served in the plate. And the fox could eat the food very easily, but not the stork. And later on, when the fox was invited by the stork and the fish soup or the delicious dish of the fish was put inside a vessel or a jar with a very tall neck, a long tall neck. So the fox could not eat. Just could lick on the surface of the jar. So this the important things about the story. Now let us learn the moral lessons, very important. The first one, as you know very well, even applies to all human beings, all living creatures also. Don't do unto others what you don't want done unto you. Yes. If you don't like other people to use bad words upon you, then you must not use. You don't like people to steal your things, then you must not steal. Right? If you don't like other people to kill you or to torture you, then you must make sure you don't kill or torture other living beings, even animals and people. This is a very good Dharma teaching. Actually, Confucius gave this very important saying also. Don't do unto others what you don't want done unto you. And that's what the fox did. So he got back in return a similar trick. But actually, if you look at Dhamma teaching, even though somebody has done something not good to you, we should not harm the person as a revenge. Dhamma teaching is like this, that we learn to forgive, right? That he has done something bad, generating bad karma. So I will not do the same thing. It's just like the person, let's say, has scolded you angrily, and then you scold him back also with great anger. That is not the Buddhist way. The Dhamma way is you don't react. You don't take revenge. That person who has done that bad thing to you will have the bad karma. So you will just respond in a very nice, calm manner. You can explain, my friend, I'm afraid that you have said the wrong things. You have, scolded me without proper reason. I explained all this to you. Tell the person that you have done wrong. And I will not take revenge. I will forgive you. Oh, wow, that is very, very fantastic. That's why there's a proverb, to err is human, to forgive divine. That means to make mistakes is actually common. Human being, and you can say all beings lah. But then if we are able to forgive, that's even better. Taking revenge is not the Dhamma way. It only adds to the problems. But you can explain in a nice fashion why that person has done the wrong thing. Let him learn from the lesson, but don't take revenge. But this is a story to tell you that don't do unto others what you don't want done unto you. But this talk, in a way, gave the person back the same medicine, as you would say. Now, the other thing is, do not do something that causes problems or trouble to others. Quite similar to the first one, except more specific. Now, you do something that causes hardship, pain, problem, suffering to another one. Like, for example, you did not serve the food properly, that person will go hungry, isn't it? In this case here. So, if you do something like, for example, you have that bad habit, people invite you and you're always late. Or sometimes you can see situations where people are late for meetings and people have to wait for you. And that is causing trouble, a waste of time. Or, let's say you are queuing up for something and you do something which is not proper. You cut queue, and then it's not fair, isn't it, to the other people who have queue up. You cut queue. That is also wrong, isn't it? And then many things like driving, for example. You drive so recklessly, you overtake recklessly, you don't follow traffic rules, you break the rules of the traffic lights, and then you cause accidents, trouble, problems, pain, suffering to other people, just like my rampage, as you know, right? Riding so dangerous on motorbikes. And the third moral lesson we can learn, I've added on to just the single moral of the story, because there are many good moral stories we want to discuss. So you have to be careful about having good friends. A good friend is sincere, kind, and helpful. So a good friend is very honest. He won't cheat you and trick you, isn't it? Like this fox tricking the stock just for fun, to amuse himself. And a good friend will be very kind, isn't it? He won't cause you difficulty and pain and suffering. And he will be very helpful. But that is not so with the fox, right? Lying, for example, right? Cheating, all those are not good. So you have to be careful. You must always choose your friends wisely. Good friends will not trick you or con you or cheat you, lie to you, and then later on you suffer. It won't be like that. So these are moral lessons that we can learn from the first story of the fox and the stork, Musang dan Tangau. Now let us go on to the second Aesop's fable. So we are now going to slide number 6. And slide number 6 is titled The Hares and the Frogs, Anak dan Kata. Now, as I told you, the hares are similar to the rabbits, where you can run very, very fast. But they are quite timid animals. Now you can see like for example, the hare or the rabbit, right? If we were to feed on something people give the rabbit or the hare, as he is, he will always look around and see whether danger is lurking or not, Just like a bird. A bird, a sparrow, you find if you were to eat the grains on the ground, and his head will always be looking left, right, and try to turn as much as he can to see whether a cat is coming and so on, or bigger bird is coming and so on. So one day, these hares, they live together and they live in the burrows, right? The holes are connected, so they can go into their burrows very safe, or safer. You find the big animals could not come and then and eat them. So they will always find safety in their burrows, or you can say the holes that have been dug and they are connected to one another. So that would be the home of these hares. So one day, these hares they gathered together, and then they discuss the unhappiness that they are experiencing. Discuss the unhappiness of their lord. That means their group of people, all hares. Because why? Oh, they were exposed to dangers on all sides. In other words, they were very unhappy and fearful that their lives are always in danger, all sides, and they do not have the strength and courage to protect themselves. They cannot fight like the big animals, lions and tigers, panthers, cheetahs. So they're complaining. You see, they're actually quite timid animals. Some of them are kept as pets. These rabbits kept as pets. So then they say, people come and hunt us and then kill us to make us soup, to eat us. Yeah, people hunt the hares and the rabbits, so they hunt. But of course, now many people do not really go and hunt for rabbits. They will take some as pets. And dogs also will come and kill us, Dogs will chase the rabbits. And then large birds also, like eagles, they come and take our small hares, using the eagle beak, flying, swoop down and then carry them and take them away and kill them and eat their flesh. And beasts of prey will be those very ferocious or fierce animals living in the jungle, like lion, tigers, wolves, all those, they will prey on the smaller animals like the rabbits, or maybe even a small mouse deer can be living a very prideful life, because the lions or the bigger animals can come and prey on them. Or squirrels will be another example, you see. So these are smaller animals. So you say we have so many enemies who can torture and kill us, devour them daily. That means to kill them and tear them into parts. That's why to be born an animal is really a suffering state. To be born into the animal realm is not a good realm. Don't think that you just like a bird, you can fly here, fly there. You can be chased by the bigger birds. Or you are like a fish, you can swim here, swim there. But then you can be eaten by the bigger fish in the oceans or the seas. Or people can come and fish you with the hooks and you get caught and eaten. So they were complaining to themselves. They say they could not endure such fear and suffering anymore. So they told each other, Ayo, our lives is full of fear and we suffer so much. Every time living in fear. So I think they all decided, life is not worth living. So they one and all decided to end their miserable lives by committing suicide. So they decided to commit suicide, to kill themselves, because they say their life always full of danger and there is suffering like that. So all of them say, yes, let them die. But you know very well, as we discussed in the Dharma lessons, committing suicide is a no-no. Like human beings have problems also. Commit suicide is not the way out. We have to try to resolve the problems. Because when you commit suicide, your minds are filled with fear, worry, frustration, right, sadness, all those negative fears will cause you to be reborn in a suffering state. So you don't solve the problem, you reborn and you suffer again. It might be from the pot to the frying, to the fire, no, from the frying pot, hot already, you go into fire even hotter, so you get reborn into even worse state, isn't it? So we can actually solve our problems if we learn the Dhamma, as you'll see later on. So now you can see the animated picture. Here you have the prop, and here we have the hair, all right? Now let us go on to slide number 7. So they already were very determined, these hares, they were determined, they were desperate, they were fearful already, they were not at ease about their lives. So they already made that decision, they resolved with the determination, they determined already, they wanted to commit suicide. So, the method they wanted to use, they wanted to drown themselves in the pool of water. Maybe it could be a stream or it could be a lake. You can consider a pool of water. So this pool of water was a distance away. So they all ran there. The group, the hares all ran towards the neighboring pool with the intention to jump into the pool to kill themselves. Because these hares, they are not like some animals that could swim. See, they could live in the water like turtles, tortoises, even dogs can swim but these hares, you put them, or the cat also, you put into the pool, you can drown them. Mati lemas lah. So as they reached the bank of the pool, they saw a number of frogs were sitting at the bank. That means the side, the land part, the ground. And they were very happy, the frogs sitting there quietly. But the moment the frogs heard the running noise of the hares were running towards the pool, isn't it? And there was noise made by them. These frogs became very frightened because the frogs knew that the hares actually could eat the frogs. The frogs smaller, so they become prey to various types of animals. Eagles also can eat the frogs, very well. Even deers, other fellows eat them, but they're going to eat the smaller animals like the frogs, you see. And the frogs will eat the smaller animals like small fish, or even certain type of flies. So you see, the frogs were very frightened, so they had to get off from the danger. So what did the frogs do? All of the frogs together, leap into the water. That means jump into the water. You know very well frogs can live in the water. They can go to the land also. Just like toads also. Tortoises, turtles, they can actually come to the land and then go to the waters. Fish cannot. Fish, if you take the fish out of the land and leave it for some time, it will die. They will die. But the frogs can. They are amphibians. So, and they wanted to hide themselves they could even go under the water where the hares could not reach them until the hares would go away and then they will come out again. So you see, so the hares saw this, So what did the hares do? Did the hares commit suicide? Or did they learn some very important life lessons, moral lessons? Just as we are trying to teach you the good moral lessons from Aesop's Fables. Now let us go on to slide number 8. So, as I said, the hares, they were rushing or running. They were running to the pool. They knew where the pool was a distance away. This is a picture that shows the thing quite clearly. So, when they reached near the place, hadn't really gone that near to be catching her. They wouldn't catch the frog now because they were so frightened and they had lost their the motivation to leave already. So, but anyway, before they could come near the frogs, they already saw. What did they see? They saw all the frightened frogs. The frogs were so frightened. Before that, they could see that they were sitting there quite peacefully. But the moment they sensed that the hares were coming. They were so frightened, and all of them jumped into the pool water, as you could see in the picture there. So they could see, the hare could see. And here the picture shows the hares all saw the frogs jumping into the pool. So luckily, of course, there were many hares. Of course, the picture just show a few. There were many hares. Then one of the older hares. The hares also were of different ages. Some young ones, some middle age, some older ones. So there was one old hare, old rabbit, you could say, if you want to use the word rabbit. And he was wiser. He had some wisdom than compared to the rest of people. So when he saw this, he learned very important life lessons. So he cried out to his friends, to his companions, the other hares. He said, stop, my friends, don't jump into the pool of water. Take heart, right? That means, ponder, think carefully, right? Now, we have to think this way. We advise all them. Don't let us destroy ourselves after all. Have you seen what happened? See, here are the creatures like the frogs who are afraid of us. And they are afraid that we will eat them. And that's what sometimes we do, isn't it? Right? That we eat the frogs. So they are afraid they also have to save themselves. So, but one way, they jump into the pool. They jump to the pool to save themselves, not to kill themselves. Because frogs can live in the water and the things. Then later on, they are not dead, they'll come out. But we, if we jump into the pools and then we will die. So, you can see here, the frogs also have a life of suffering also. Then the wise hare started telling them some Dharma. You see, all creatures, all human beings also have suffering. There must be suffering. So we must use our brains, right? As to in order to be more safe. Like for example, we find there is danger coming, we can go and hide in our homes, our burrows and holes. And then there will be times when we know we are alert, there is no danger, that we don't have big animals coming, then we can come out and so on. That is life. And this happens to all. But what about the good things? We have to appreciate. We can still have food and we can enjoy the good surroundings in our home. We have friends. So you talk very, very positive things. Oh, they say, yeah, why should we go and commit suicide? That's not the way out. All animals do like that. If all animals, all people, all because of the suffering, all commit suicide, then there won't be any living animals and people on the earth, isn't it? So he convinced them not to commit suicide. And there's a beautiful moral lesson, which we will discuss, right, in the next slide. So, I just put some animated pictures to show you the frogs, did not think of committing suicide actually. The frogs also, actually all actually will treasure their lives. Life is the most precious thing, isn't it? So, but sometimes you find we face with problems and conflict or trouble. So if after we discuss this in the next slide, right? So let's go to slide number 9. Now we are going to discuss very important Dharma lessons, or what we call moral lessons, or even life lessons. Why we want to have these moral lessons and life lessons or Dharma lessons? Because if we learn from these very important moral lessons, not to get the A's in your exams, then our minds will be better. We can think better. We become more wise. And then we can handle the problems and the trouble, the conflicts that we face in life. Time to time we will have. There will be problems, there will be moments of happiness. Sometimes you feel there are so many good things and you feel very happy. But sometimes you will feel pain also. Like sickness or danger. things like that. So we are going to learn some important lessons. Now I chose this background, the hares and the frogs, which means that the moral lessons for this particular story. Just now the other story of the fox and the stork, we had already discussed the moral lessons there, isn't it? In a different format. Also 3 moral lessons. So now we are going to discuss this. Now, so just now was a different set of moral lessons in it. Basically, it was do not do things unto others that you do not want those things done unto you. That was the most important lesson in a way. Now, I put this do Dhamma Chakravyu to show you that actually these moral lessons pertain to Dhamma also. So now let us go on. That's the first one. In life, there will be dukkha for all people and animals. Now, let us say we combine or we concentrate more on people, right? People, human beings. And that is the first noble truth in Dhamma, that there is suffering in life. There will be. Nobody is free. Is anybody, let's say, is there anybody who doesn't have suffering or some problems from the time they were born until they die? Impossible, isn't it? There will be times that you get sick, you have pain, you meet with accidents, and you face with something you don't like, your friends scold you, or the teacher punishes you, all sorts of things, isn't it? So it's a fact of life. Everybody is like that unless you are a Buddha or you have become enlightened. So this is one thing you have to realize, which the wise hare realized and told his friends, and that's why they didn't commit suicide. So you have to acknowledge it. And in the most important Dharma teaching in Buddhism, which is the 4 Noble Truths, the first Noble Truth is there will be dukkha. There is dukkha, there will be dukkha. As long as you are in this, what we call samsara. Samsara, the conditioned world where you have birth, aging, and then you have sicknesses, suffering, death, and then goes on again, rebirth, and so on until you find a way out. So you have a life. That's very important. And the 4 Noble Truths go on to tell you why there is dukkha, how you can stop the suffering, and also the way where you can get out of suffering. I'm not giving that presentation, but I say that you have to acknowledge this, just as the wise hare realized. So that is an important thing we have to realize that not only the hares are suffering, the frogs also suffering sometimes, and other animals also, even the fierce one like the tiger or the lions that can be hunted by human beings, can be killed with guns, and taken to zoos and so on, isn't it? So all human beings, of course, right? They face with all sorts of problems, like sicknesses, not getting jobs, failing your exams. But that's not the end of all things, because you have so many good things also in life, right? So when you have pleasure, you will have also pain sometimes. When you have gain, sometimes you have loss also, right? And then when you have praise, somebody praise you, very happy. But when somebody blames you, curses you, condemns you, then you feel very sad and suffering, isn't it? And then sometimes wow, I find this pop singer so famous. Other times, people never hear of you anymore, or even actors, actresses. That is life. So once you realize this, they say, oh, I must find a way out, like Siddhartha did. He knew about this. Birth, sickness, aging, suffering, and then death, and then goes on and on. So Siddhartha went to search for the truth. So you find these are very important lessons where you can think about. And this particular story, the hares and the frogs, is about dukkha, suffering that all will face. But the way out is not to commit suicide. You learn that because you'll be reborn again and again in your terrible state, because suicide is not a good way to die. You have to die naturally. Now, let us go on to the next one. There are other living beings that have greater suffering than us. We always think when we have some pain and suffering, that ours is the worst, isn't it? Yeah, I feel so terrible. Now I have the flu, I have fever. You cannot be patient and endure the thing. You see the doctor and get the medicine and be patient, and then you can recover. But why not you think this way? Actually, there are even worse people. What about people who are suffering from cancer? What about the people who have no legs? Or the people who are blind? Even young ones, sometimes you can see in the videos, and they are so they are in a terrible conditions. Born without legs or without arms, you have people like that also, or blind and also dumb. Oh, Helen Keller, but yet she overcame all the odds and became such a famous writer, activist, and so on. So when you have a problem, let's say you fail an exam and so on, you must not let that thing overcome you. You have to know how to reflect. This is one problem. And then I try to find out the cause. Maybe I did not study hard enough, or I misinterpreted the question and so on. Then I will learn from the failure and improve. Isn't it? This is not a major problem. And some of the students they even committed suicide, because they didn't get all the A's. That is foolish, isn't it? So when you receive very good Dharma lessons, you know that these things can happen to all people, but we know how to think positively. We learn from the lessons, right? And then you move on. Actually, failing the exam is not no deal. There are people who are struggling, no food to eat in Africa, no. Or there are people who have only 6 more months to live, and you fail an exam, and I'm not saying that you should not fail an exam and don't bother. No, you try your best already, and then learn from any mistakes. Next time you can see improve. So your mind becomes wiser, and you know how to think correctly. So this is one good thing. And the other thing associated with this is you must always learn to count your blessings. Be thankful and grateful for all the things you have. You don't have certain things. Maybe your family is not so rich, right? Then you may not have some of the things that your rich friends have. Wow, 3 pairs of sports shoes, Nike lah, Reebok lah, Adidas or what, and then they have this very expensive mobile phone. But you see that not necessarily they are more happy. They may have their problems. They get restless after that, tired already, they want more and more. But you have a good family. Your parents look after you so well. You have the basic things like, food to eat, the shelter, a house, not a big bungalow lah. But some people have the big bungalows at night so cannot sleep. So you have to count your blessings. You have many things. Like for example, you have a good mind. You are not cacat. There are people who are cacat, isn't it? You cannot study at all. I've seen people in the rumah kena cacat until 14, 15 years old, 小便大便 which means they don't even know how to go to urinate. They will urinate in their trousers or dress. So you know how to count your blessings. What about people who have no food, like in Africa, right? Where the child is in such a terrible state, no food. I've seen videos and pictures where the certain of the children in Africa so poor that they have to eat the clothing, and then they have to dig the ground to see you can get any cacing or roots or what. And so many die of starvation. You are so fortunate you are not living in such places. So you have to count your blessings and be grateful. Gratitude can earn. And then you have to think, wow, why is this some of the plus are so unfortunate, so very sick, their lifespan in the nursing homes or in Africa, we have no basic things like food and shelter even. Clothing also, hardly any, they depend on donations. You can see the clothes they wear, the shoes they wear, so terrible. You are so fortunate. Then have you asked yourself, why is it like that? Then you begin to learn Dharma that actually is your good karma. Your good karma that you have come quite blessed compared to so many who are worse off than you. Then you know that how to get that good karma. You must learn that it's so important to do all the good things and not do the bad things. If you do the bad things, you get the bad karma. You do the good things, you get the good karma. And this good karma will follow you from life to life. You have to learn all this from the Dharma. Then you find you become wiser. Even young people, sometimes I find they can think very well. They are wiser. Whereas others are blur. No? Oh, every time only they know how to play and play and play. And then when the problems come, they cannot tahan, endure, complain and complain. Mama, very painful. My people not comfortable, everything. Of course, the parents will bring to see the doctor and so on. Everybody will get that sort of thing, you see. So cannot be patient. So you see how important it is to know these important moral lessons. Of course, I've strayed from the Aesop fable, just one moral into many. Now let us look at the most important point really. So, dukkha there will be. And actually in the Buddha's teachings, Buddha analyzed everything and even told about the cause of dukkha, why you have dukkha, you see, right? The cause lah. And then the Buddha found this very important third noble truth that dukkha can end actually, provided you follow a path, and he gave the path, the noble eightfold path. But I'm not going to the details. I posted in other presentations. But we learned this, that practicing Dharma will help us live with less suffering naturally. Why is it that you have some people who may be very poor, but they have maybe the Dharma from the past, or they might have learned it also, and they can cope better. Their minds are better. As somebody once said, I think it was an Australian, he said, he went to visit some of the, third world countries like Bangladesh, Burma, and so on. He said, these people are poor, everything, but seem to be very happy, right? And they can bear with the hardship. Whereas in their homes in Australia, very rich and affluent, luxurious, more suicide cases still. Why? Because they don't know how to think wisely. They don't have the Dharma now with them. So you find how important Dharma is. So when you practice Dharma, like for example, just now I told you, one very important Dharma teaching is that dukkha there will be, we have to learn how to cope with them, right? With practicing the Dharma, the teachings there will help. I have no time to tell you so many important things. I just gave you one very good example called the 8 worldly winds that sometimes gain, sometimes loss, sometimes praise, sometimes place. So when we learn that sort of thing, then we know it is natural. Everybody will have. Then we become more patient and we can endure. And then another very important teaching is these two will pass. Everything is impermanent, isn't it? Now you find even you have a sickness, it won't just remain like this. If you seek the proper treatment, everything, you'll be cured and be well and fit already. Right? Let's say you fail the test. So many great people have failed before, even in the colleges or universities, and they become very great and rich people. You can read the life history of Elon Musk. Right? So much suffering when he was a child. Now he's the richest man on earth. Right? So from here, we can see that if we learn the lessons of life lessons or good moral lessons, then they will help us to cope with all the problems that we face, and we will also have solutions. We have ways where we can handle the problems better and not like going into depression or being sick and so on. So that's why I encourage those who are not in the Sunday school, right, to enroll in the Buddhist Sunday school, or if you are a Christian, you can go to the church to learn good life lessons, the proper Christian teachings is fine. All religions also have good morality, isn't it? Teaching good moral lessons. So these are the 3 important moral lessons you can call life lessons you have to learn in order to lead a more meaningful, peaceful, happy, and wiser life. Now let us now go on to the last slide really. So we made this aspiration. And these Aesop Fables, I like the Aesop Fables ever since I was young. Now I still read them also, but I will reflect. Even though Aesop Fables are supposed to be for children, but actually people of all ages actually can look at it at different angles, and you can go deeper and reflect on what does this teach us. This is what I did with these two Aesop Fables. So we made the aspiration that from Aesop Fables, and we note this important point, right? And you can make the aspiration also. We try to recollect this advice. From Aesop's Fables, learn and practice moral lessons constantly. Just don't look at the fun aspect of the story. You see, the fox are terrible, everything, but you forget about the moral lessons. You must learn the moral lessons. And not only learning the moral lessons, practice them. Like in the one of the stories, remember, must not cheat other people, must not lie, it must not cause suffering, because next time I will get those things back. That is something very good you can learn. And so therefore you put into practice. That's how we put into practice. If you go on like this, you will definitely be able to live more happily and peacefully. Your life will be more meaningful. Right from the time when you are young, and then you grow up into as teenagers, and then become adults and so on, because you have a whole foundation of good moral lessons, or you can say Dharma lessons. So this way, you would have lived a meaningful, worthy life, and not doing stupid things like committing suicide and so on. We feel sorry for these people. Actually, these people who have these tendencies, have problems, they must get help. They are professional people who can help. Or if they belong to any religious organization, the church, the mosque, temple, or the Buddhist centers and so on, Dharma centers, they can get help from them also. You have many groups that are out to help people that have these problems they cannot resolve. So today, I hope that you have learned important life lessons and moral lessons from these two simple Aesop's Fable short stories. But I've taken more than an hour to go over this presentation. So before we say sadhu 3 times, I would like to take this opportunity to thank all you young students, and also maybe the youth members, and also parents and grandparents who might be following in order to teach the young ones these good moral lessons. And to all who have been following this presentation, I say thank you and sadhu to all of you for having taken time to follow this presentation, and also putting in your effort. Energy is expended to listen with mindfulness and concentration. So sadhu and thank you. Now let us hold our palms and we get together. Let us say sadhu 3 times. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. To all of you who have been following this presentation, may you all be well, happy, healthy, peaceful, and may you always continue to learn good moral lessons from Aesop's Fables, and more important thing, from the Dharma, right? So take care.